Welcome to Charts Today. Today's edition for Thursday, the 20th of April, comes to you from London. And a lot of red on the screen this morning, so we'll take a look at markets. We'll also look at those UK inflation numbers yesterday and the Tesla results out last night, what that means for the chart. So we'll take a look at that as well. We'll also look at the energy mix. A lot of red on the screen there. And even in my own stocks, I was seeing here quite big falls. I quite like ranking my worst performers ahead of my best performers just to keep a focus there. And we see the stop losses all kicking in. This is my UK Great 8 that I bought at the start of the month, basically just running the scans, best upside targets in the UK. These were the stocks. So they're all still going up the hill despite some setbacks, but that's the main thing, is just to watch these stops on my stock. So really quite key there. But taking a look, first of all, we'll look at that inflation number and the UK still holding at 10.1% yesterday, not looking good. Here we see the US base rates. This data all imported into Updata from a spreadsheet, so really very easy to do. And we see here the differential between UK and US inflation are really quite worrying in the UK, that it's just not falling. Of course, that's having an impact on the pound and the FTSE. So we'll take a look at that during the session. But really quite interesting to see how the US seem to have got inflation more under control than the UK, and that is really reflected in those interest rate rises in the US. So there's a lot of debate as to whether the Fed should have risen as aggressively as they had, or whether the UK should have, but it's interesting just to see the effects in the charts. Numbers out from Tesla last night, profits disappointed, turnover was still pretty strong. Key thing is that long-term trend going to affect the Tesla share price, or can we break higher, confirming all these bulls? It'll be interesting to watch Tesla at the opening today. The reality is that long-term trend normally wins, so just keeping an eye on that. And of course, we can look at the trends and targets. Just looking at Tesla, it's very easy for us to do. And we just look at the long term, the medium term, and the short term charts here, and the corresponding point and figure targets. And we see here that we're lower. So it's really quite key there on Tesla. And we've got these downside targets. And the fact that we've made a lower high and then looking for that March low, 164, say, if we fall through that level, we've got targets to 174, 178, not taking us lower. But if we do activate today, we do activate a downside target to 138 on the 0.5% log scale. So really quite key there. Looking at the dollar index, first of all, that's actually just coming back here to test that low that we saw in February. And this is really key. We're below the cloud on this daily chart, still above on the weekly on the lagging line, but moving through on the price. Remembering this is my long term, my medium term, and my short term view, the 60-minute chart. Running on Refinitiv Icon, but you can run on over 30 different data services with Updata, including Bloomberg, Trayport, whatever you want. So we're seeing here the downside target has been activated for the dollar, so it is looking worrying long term for the US dollar. Looking at sterling, sitting at 124, just couldn't quite get above that 125 level. We did see sterling jump yesterday, but not enough against that stronger dollar. And looking at it against the euro, we're seeing it 109.73. Again, just couldn't hold that 110 level. That's a real resistance level for sterling against the euro. But the higher interest rate spectre is keeping sterling relatively strong. And looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting at 28,870, so we've fallen back there. Our survey on Bitcoin that we put out earlier this week was quite insightful. More than half the market see Bitcoin higher, and half the market see Bitcoin no higher, or lower. So it's really interesting that the market's evenly split that uncertainty, and keeping an eye on these short-term targets is really quite key there. We've got some downward pressure on the 60-minute chart below the cloud. The Nasdaq, be very interesting to see us today. We've got the futures lower. We are just sitting pretty flat there, just struggling to make new moves. And on the S&P, that 4,200 level, really quite critical, just struggling to break through there. But we do have upside targets. It's still a mixed picture, and we did break lower yesterday. And the futures are suggesting the Nasdaq future down over 1%. So we are going to see tech stocks lower again today, so quite key. The FTSE future is down slightly. The DAX in Germany is down nearly 1% as well, so sentiment weighing there. It's quite interesting, though, seeing that the CAC 40 did actually make a new all-time high recently, and that has looked better, and that's really quite interesting looking at the targets. We're pushing all the way to these targets, not far to go now to get there. Looking at the Asian market, we had Japan, little changed. The Chinese market also little change, just starting to wander through on the long-term chart in the cloud, so that's looking pretty good. The Sensex in India also little change. Asia generally, and even Oz little change. So Asia generally not much change, but of course closed before those US futures kicked in. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but looking at some of the soft commodities, we've had sugar really rocketing of late. That's still bucking the trend, up higher. Did just fall back a little bit, but still pushing higher, and we've got targets some 15% higher still for sugar, so really quite interesting there. Wheat down 1.6%, so that's quite a different picture. Bearish below the cloud on all three time frames, moving back below there, so it's quite interesting as well. And if we look at gold, we see here we're just teetering this 2000 level, just struggling to hold 2000. But the fact is we keep nudging above it, and of course we are bullish on the long term and the medium term. Just short term, the last few days we've pulled back. We've got a downside target there, but those upside targets on the longer term chart, very compelling. Silver holding $25. That's really important now, a level for silver. We will get a new upside target here. We've already got one on the 0.5% chart to $42. That's some 67% higher. So really quite significant, that target there. And we're seeing on platinum, we're also just pushing higher there, just moving above the cloud. And even palladium, which has been the laggard of late, is just now starting to break higher, moving above the cloud, making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. So starting to look a little bit better there too. Looking at US 10-year yields, sitting at 3.5%. So really still bullish on that long-term trend. We do have some downside targets. We'll get some new upside ones. It's a real battle. This sort of 3.3%, 4.1%, 4.2% are a real battle as to which way we go. But the long-term trend is still bullish, and short-term we have had a re-rating with an upside target to 3.8%, so really quite key there. Looking at some of the tech majors, we've got Apple, they're looking stronger, just still holding bullish above the cloud, upside target activated, looking very bullish on the medium and short-term charts. Amazon, not so much. They're actually looking very bearish on that weekly chart. On the daily, they're through, but still got a lot of work to do to get back to new highs. Microsoft, number 2 in the market cap stakes, looking pretty strong as well, just starting to break above the cloud. So we're seeing that real re-rating. Of course, tech has to make new highs, and we saw those highs in Microsoft back in 2021. Got work to do there as well. Now, looking at the energy mix, last of all, we've got Brent crude. Really quite interesting that was the jump on those production cuts that we saw just before earlier in the month, and we went higher, which was really key. We're just pulling back, breaking lower. This is on the daily chart. On the 60-minute chart, we've been bearish the last few days. We've been calling it bearish in our morning call out to clients. If you want the morning call, just let me know. And here we see we've got a downside target to some 79. Of course, we are just teetering with the cloud, and this is what happens when you get a medium-term cloud cross. We're playing with this cloud. We really need to break above this 87.50 level for crude oil to run higher. Not good news, of course, if you're a purchaser. Gas prices actually recovered a little bit this morning. We did make new lows yesterday, so we have seen a recovery there, but the downside targets, medium and long term, are still bearish. So it really is quite hard to say that gas has hit the bottom. And we see on NBP, we did have downside targets. They were met. But if we move below this low that we set yesterday and today, that's going to be really significant. So one to watch. And German power, we're seeing here as well on Cal 24 on German power. We're down 1% this morning. Really just this triangle pattern going on in German power. That's going to be quite key. Can we break? Which way will we break out of this pattern? And one of the things I love about triangle patterns is something's going to happen. So we just got to watch for that break. It's going to be really quite key there. Which way will we break? Watch your targets. That's it for today. Keep an eye on those markets and your short-term targets if you're trading. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.